open wide.
Ready?
Here comes your chunk of Trump.
It's my favorite food.
With your first bite, here's Mark Thompson.
I have a feeling it's going to be beautiful.
Well, I know there are a lot of Trumpies who watch. I mean, you people who, have big hopes for your former president and my former president coming back and being president again. Try to put this country back on track is what you're thinking if you're one of those MAGA people. Well, your top guy, Donald Trump, is not happy. He is complaining to his campaign and to advisors about what's happening. His advisors are saying, hey, dude, I'm sure they don't call him dude, they don't call him sir either. Whenever he says, sir, you know that the conversation really didn't happen. It's one of his tells. But they probably still call him Mr. President, of course, and I'm sure they say, Mr. President, you need to try to focus on Kamala Harris and not attacking everyone and everything in sight like he did the other day when he attacked the Georgia governor, who is a Republican. And in a moment, you'll learn all the work that is being done in Georgia to make sure that Trump wins there. But Trump has grown increasingly upset about Kamala Harris's surging poll numbers. Also, he's frustrated with the media coverage. He was on final approach for victory, as you're aware. And then what happened? Joe Biden, facing that full-blown revolt from within the Democratic Party, he stepped back. And Trump mocked Kamala Harris before she became the Democratic nominee, called her so pathetic. Do you remember that? Well, what happened was they had the GOP nominating convention and lost track of the fact that, hey, this guy Biden might really step back and you might end up running against Kamala Harris. And that's what's happened. And now Donald Trump finds himself back in a dead-even contest and with new signs of strain in his orbit, in his inner circle, Kim.
Uh-oh.
Even in the Trump inner circle, there are questions about the future. Might there be a shakeup?
Why are you yelling?
What, like they're going to drop Vance or what?
No. His advisors and those who are running his campaign.
Oh, yeah.
As he has grown increasingly upset about Harris's surging poll numbers, he is asking friends about how he might want to rearrange those who are part of his campaign.
He's feeling the heat.
According to 5 people close to the campaign who spoke on the condition of anonymity to the Washington Post, they speak about Trump and his frustration. Quote, he says, it's unfair that I beat him and now I have to beat her too. Trump allies have taken to finger-pointing over several events that seemingly went off the rails. The Mar-a-Lago members and donors have logged their concerns with Trump, who then tells those concerns to others, and that feeds the frustration train. We've had a lot of good things happen. What's that?
There he is today. He's taking,
still going?
He's taking questions from reporters, yeah.
Let's just pot him up for a second, Albert. Go ahead. Here is
I think
Donald
she's
Trump.
actually not as smart as he is. I don't think he's very smart either, by the way. I'm not a big fan of his brain, but I think that she's actually not as smart as he is.
Yeah, I love it when Trump evaluates people's IQ and how smart people are. Just because we're on this, I'll mention it, and then I'll get to the Georgia. What is happening in Georgia really is serious, and it's a sign of things happening in this country when it comes to shedding voters from the voter rolls, and they've already done it. In Georgia, they're really good at it. I'll get to it in a second, but just because Trump's talking about intellect and, cognitive abilities, No Contendo says Trump swapped campaign managers 2 times last time and lost. Yeah, good point.
Big shout out.
I mean, shuffling staff is kind of what he does. Blaming other people for problems is kind of what he does. And Trump's speeches may show signs of, quote, dementia and cognitive decline, according to top experts. His speaking style has deteriorated over recent years in certain ways, which are potential indications of cognitive decline, say experts. Experts in memory, psychology, and linguistics noted a decline in the former president's verbal complexity since 2017. That's been coupled with a rise in disjointed and sometimes incoherent speech patterns. While there may be several benign explanations for those changes, others are more alarming. There has been an ongoing analysis of Trump and his mental acuity, even as Biden has kind of stolen that issue. But several of these experts pointing out that the now 78-year-old Trump is using more short sentences, repetition, and muddled word orders. Yeah. Also, the use of extended digressions, which they say is potentially attributable, and attributable is a ding word, to a deterioration in his mental acuity, the beginning of cognitive conditions like Alzheimer's disease, according to those who are looking in.
You know, in radio, we know people have crutches that they fall back on when they're speaking publicly.
Sure.
It seems a lot like when he loses his train of thought, he'll have certain mannerisms. He'll shift his body and all of a sudden fall back on one of the crutches that he's used over and over again. You know, the insults or the diatribe about someone not being very smart or whatever it may be. But he has it's like he loses his words and all of a sudden we're back into what he's said before.
Yeah, I mean, and it's true that we all have crutches in our conversational styles and phrases that we might default to. But you're absolutely right. One really begins to notice it with Trump these days. And I always say he's playing the hits when he goes to, his various grievance-based proclamations. But it also may be a sign that he has fewer and fewer moves mentally. I mean, he just doesn't quite have the nimbleness, that he had before. He wants to distance himself from Project 2025, doesn't really know anything about it. Not familiar with it, don't know them, have no idea who's in charge of it, is a quote that he wrote in a social media post about the Project 2025 policy blueprint that essentially dismantles government and reshapes it in the activist way in which the right wing, the hard right wing of the Republican Party wants it reshaped. That's out of the Heritage Foundation. That truly is the epicenter for some intense ideologies. Well, again, this 2025 plan out of the Heritage Foundation that he has no idea about and also has no idea who is in charge of. He, of course, now it's revealed was on a 45-minute private flight with the Heritage Foundation president, Kevin Roberts, and there is a picture of the two together. The plane tracking data and the photograph from on board the plane does show that they flew together to a Heritage conference where Trump delivered a keynote address that gestured to Heritage's forthcoming policy proposals, in other words, Project 2025. So it's there. Albert, I don't know if you can Google the picture. It's out of the Washington Post, I believe, but it's also probably being held elsewhere. That picture's also probably viewable elsewhere. Anyway, it's the two together, the Heritage Foundation president, Kevin Roberts, and Donald Trump together on that private flight prior to Trump actually addressing a group of people about Project 2025. So more BS out of the Trump camp. Now,
well,
there they are together.
I don't know that guy. Never seen him before in my life.
I mean, and again, you can say, well, I take a lot of pictures with a lot of people, but this was on the way, as I say, to a conference at which Trump was speaking about the Heritage Foundation policy strategies for his next term. So let's keep our stuff straight. I have J.D. Vance news, and I'll do it in a moment, but that is your chunk of Trump.
That's it for this edition.
Well, I really enjoyed it.
But make sure to join us again next time
I think you might want to listen. There's nothing wrong with listening.
for another chunk of Trump.
Hi, it's Mark, and I thought that was great. Hit the notification bell. You'll know whenever there's a new video being dropped, and please subscribe to our channel to help us save the universe.